There is no argument about the fact that air travel is one of the safest and fastest means of transportation that we know today, especially if you are traveling from one country to another that is divided by a water body. We also know that airplanes are huge compared to other vehicles that we use for our personal transportation. But how big can an airplane get? What if we told you that it is an 84 meters long airplane, which happens to be the biggest airplane in the world? If that caught your attention, stick till the end of the video to know a lot more. Hey aerospace enthusiasts, welcome back to our channel, Space Tech Zone. There are so many reasons why people choose air travel over other means of travel, despite the ticket prices being a lot higher than what you would expect with the public transport system. This has to do with the rising fuel prices, and it also takes a lot of money to operate an airplane, and airplanes are generally a lot more expensive than every other vehicle out there. A lot of people prefer air travel because it happens to be the fastest way to get to your destination, especially if you want to travel long distances. Cars and trains can only be competitive for extremely short trips, which happens to be another reason why air travel is the preferred way for traveling long distances. That's not it. We know that airplane crashes are horrific and will terrify you, especially when you think about an airplane falling into the oceans. But they're not as common as you might think. The odds of dying on a 1,000-mile flight is significantly less than dying from a 100-mile car ride. So you could say the transportation systems that we have on land, which includes railways, buses, and our own cars, are a lot more dangerous than flying on an airplane. Comfort happens to be another reason why air travel is a preferred choice for a lot of people. You get a wide variety of options when it comes to air travel. You get the economy class, you can get the first class, you can get the business class depending on how much you're willing to pay. This means that you'll also be getting a much more comfortable seat once you spend a lot more, and you will also get high quality complimentary meals and so many other amenities. So it's clear to you why people prefer air travel. You also know that airplanes are really huge vehicles, and the biggest one of them all has to be the Antonov AN-225. For starters, Antonov AN-225 happens to be the world's longest and heaviest operational aircraft, and this particular aircraft is operated by Antonov Airlines. With a wingspan of about 88.4 meters and a height of 18.2 meters, and with a takeoff weight of 640 tons, this airplane is no joke. This particular aircraft was designed way back in the 1980s in the Soviet Union, and surprisingly, there's only one that was ever fully built. This particular aircraft is so huge that it needs to be powered by 6 massive turbofan engines. So the Antonov AN-225 is a true monster in the skies. This giant plane weighs about 285 tons when it's empty, and this enormous aircraft has been in commercial service ever since 2001. When it debuted way back in 1988, the Antonov AN-225 was around 50% bigger than any airliner that we had seen before. The Antonov AN-225 Marina is powered by 6 massive Ivenchenko Progress D-18T turbofan engines, each capable of pumping out over 51,600 pounds or 23 tons of thrust on takeoff. Not surprisingly, these engines were actually selected for their high takeoff thrust, low specific fuel consumption, and their extreme reliability. These aircraft are also very easy to maintain, and they have low noise and containment emissions. What's even more exciting is to see this particular aircraft land on 32 wheels in 16 pairs. These wheels are also responsible for the aircraft's ability to turn within a 200 feet wide runway. The Antonov is not the biggest cargo plane ever built because the Hughes H-4 Hercules Spruce Goose had an enormous wingspan of 320 feet or about 97.5 meters, although it was shorter at 220 feet or 67 meters. But the Spruce Goose is only a museum exhibit, and the Antonov AN-225 on the other hand is still in operation. With a wingspan of about 383 feet and 240 feet in length, we also have the Stratolaunch, which is bigger than the Antonov AN-225, and the first flight for this aircraft was way back in 2019. But again, we did not include this one for this video because it's still not used for regular flights and for its original purpose of carrying air-launched-to-orbit rockets and satellites, which makes the Antonov the biggest plane in the world right now. So why exactly do we have such a large aircraft? Well, the Antonov AN-225 was originally designed and built by the Soviets as a super heavy transporter to replace the aging Mashinov VMT. It was codenamed Cossack by NATO forces during the Cold War. The aircraft was originally designed to transport the Engineer carrier rocket and the Buran spaceplane and was in turn an enlargement of the already successful and massive Antonov AN-124. Later, the AN-225 aircraft was purchased by Antonov Airlines, and the company has been using this particular aircraft as a transporter of oversized cargo ever since. So how many Antonov AN-225 aircraft are there out in the world? Well, there's good news. The Antonov AN-225 is one-of-a-kind aircraft, and the only one was ever completed during the Soviet era. A second airframe was also commissioned, but it was never completed. The AN-225 made its maiden flight way back in December 21, 1988, and back then, the AN-225 has delivered heavy and huge shipments across the globe. It is continuing to do so, and the aircraft will remain in service until at least 2033, which is a lot of time. The AN-225 also had a sister aircraft that was slightly different when it comes to configuration, but the construction came to a halt way back in 1994 because of lack of funding, and nobody was really interested in making such a huge aircraft. There was another attempt to renew interest to complete the manufacturing of this aircraft by 2009, and the aircraft was almost complete, but the construction was halted once again. Then in 2016, Antonov Airlines agreed to complete the second airframe for the Aerospace Industry Corporation of China prior to the hopes of the Aerospace Industry Corporation commencing series production. Fast forward to 2018, there were reports floating around that Boeing had made plans to help Antonov Airlines complete the second airframe after their supply chain dried up in the wake of the Crimean annexation by Russia. The maximum payload designed for this particular aircraft happens to be 250 tons, with a volume capacity of 1,200 cubic meters. The aircraft's cargo bay has a total length of 142 feet and a width of 20 feet with a height of 14 feet. This enormous cargo bay is capable of carrying about 16 standard aeronautical containers, 50 cars, or a single piece of cargo up to 200 tons by weight. The cargo bay can also be pressurized, which is another feature of this particular aircraft. The cargo is loaded through the nose, as this particular aircraft does not come with a rear ramp or a cargo door. This one was designed in such a way that the final weight of this particular aircraft can be made a reasonable one. This particular aircraft also has a specially designed twin-tail design, unlike the more traditional single vertical tail fin, to allow the transportation of large external items if needed. This particular aircraft is still a nightmare for those small airports because huge aircraft like this require longer runways. So some airports are too small to accommodate such an aviation behemoth. It's not just about the physical dimensions that happen to be the limiting factor for the AN-225, it's also the weight. So this creates two issues. One of them is that the surface of the runway may not be able to support the aircraft. But again, as we mentioned earlier, this particular aircraft comes equipped with 32 wheels, and its landing gear is designed in such a way that the mass is well dispersed, and the weight per wheel is actually smaller than many wide-body aircraft, including the Boeing 777. The other issue happens to be the movement of the aircraft. So even with the powerful engines and brakes, accelerating and decelerating, such a heavy aircraft takes a lot of time, which is why this huge aircraft requires some of the world's longest runways. There is no doubt about the fact that the AN-225 happens to be an incredible piece of engineering. Even today, we don't have something like this, or you could say we don't have something that is operational like the Antonov AN-225. Let's hope that we get a new version of this aircraft because that will be incredible, and we're sure that it'll be another engineering marvel in the aerospace industry. But will there be another Antonov is a question that still remains unanswered, because we think that the reason why we still don't have another AN-225 is because it's not economically viable to have another one, because the existing AN-225 is only carrying out fairly limited operations. So working on another one makes no sense financially. The active AN-225 recently returned to service after a 10-month break. This time the aircraft flew 3 helicopters from Afghanistan to RAF Brize Norton before returning to its base in Kiev. And that's a wrap for today's video. What do you think about the Antonov AN-225? Is it impressive enough to be on your list of the biggest planes in the world? Do let us know in the comments section below. That's about it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will meet again in the next one.